Gentlemen, welcome back. This is Deep Threat Sports Network. We're here with another fantastic episode, jam-packed for you guys this week. On this week, we're going to talk about the Big 12 win totals. We just moved on from ACC win totals. Going to kind of follow the same outline as that. We're going to cut this thing in half, talk about the first part of this week, the rest of the teams next week, just going to kind of go in alphabetical order and really dive into the win totals here. We love doing those for you guys out there, have a good following on those, and I feel like we're in a really good spot with how we feel about all of these teams so far. The Big 12 is a really dicey conference. This could go any direction. This is a conference that when I took a step back and looked at it, I saw about 5 or 6 different teams that could win. I saw about 5 or 6 different teams that may not win a conference game. And if you followed the old Arizona State method from last year, I thought they were going to be terrible. They go on and they are the powerhouse in the Big 12. So maybe we have another team like that take off this year. Bryant, Nolan are with me this week. Fellas, how we doing?
Pretty
Doing
good.
good.
Pretty good.
Good, good. Nolan, my understanding is you have another great question for us to kick off this episode. So let's go ahead and dive into that, and then we'll swing on from that question onto the win totals.
So my question relates to the new house settlement. And for backstory, I'm sure everybody's heard of it if you're listening to this podcast, but for the last 18 months, people have been trying to have schools pay the players, not just scholarship, actual almost contracts in a sense to pay the players. What just got passed, each school is getting 20.5 million, but that's spread across sports. People are throwing out 75% headed towards football. So my question for you guys related to this, since this is the biggest change we've seen here in a little bit, is this going to spread out the talent in college football? Because teams now have every team has that 20.5 million to play with? Or is it just going to make the big schools, the blue bloods, even better at football because now on top of their collective, they have that extra 20.5 million to spend on players?
So real quick, my one question is because I did not do this and I should have. I just thought of this. It with the 70% number being thrown around, what exact dollar amount of 20.5 mil is that? I'm not good at math. That's why I'm here. That's probably roughly somewhere in the 14 million range, right?
14 million if you're doing that. But also, Bryant brought up a good point when we were talking about this. That's not a hard number. You
Okay.
can do whatever percentage you want. So some of those schools that don't have football, like your Big East basketball schools, they can take all they want for their basketball. So it'll be interesting to see, especially when the Foul 'em Hard podcast comes back around during college basketball season. Is the Big East just going to start paying everybody crazy amounts of money so they can win every year?
I mean, they definitely should, right? Brian, what are you kind of thinking about this? I don't really know what direction I lean on this at all. Still, you're muted, buddy. I think you're still muted.
Yeah, you are. I can't hear you.
There it is.
How about now?
We
Yeah,
got
I
you now,
got you.
baby.
I think my standpoint on this is I think the 20.5 million levels the playing field for a multitude of reasons. Uh, every school is at a cap. It's like a salary cap in the NFL. You can only spend that much money. Now, the 20.5 million doesn't all have to be spent on football. It won't be. It can't be. So there's a couple of caveats to that. How much is the team's going to spend out of that 20.5 million? The school doesn't have to spend that much if they don't want to. That's a pretty big hit to their budget, basically out of nowhere already. So I think there's going to be a lot of schools that don't spend that much. There's some Title IX discussions on even pay with men versus women's sports that throws a wrench into things. And there's also the caveat of I lost my train of thought on that. What was I going to say? I'll get back to it. But the other side of this, Nolan kind of mentioned, is the NIL deal situation. Now, I think this is where it can uneven the playing field because all that money that was getting spent on the student athletes from the NIL that was not coming to the schools can now be based solely for NIL and stacked on top of what's being offered by the schools. So if you're a Texas school that has a bunch of oil money, or the Michigan guy that's also got a bunch of oil money, he can focus all that on one player, two players, throw the big bucks on guys that he wants because he can now. He doesn't have to worry about spreading across the whole whole gamut of the team because they're getting money no matter what from each school. So uh, I know it's going to be weird. Got dark times coming, and then there's also part of the NIL that has to get cleared by a third party. They can also nix any NIL deal. I've seen a few comments saying that 75% of the NIL deals that are on the table now would be instantly nixed by them, just because of how bad and how around the rules they are. So it's going to be weird to see. It's going to be some murky waters. I feel like for a few years.
That's
Well,
the
since
thing I
you're
was
kind
going
of
to bring up when you said NIL and the fair market value. That's the new thing they're throwing out. How they're nixing NIL deals. If somebody just decides, man, I really need you, I'm gonna pay you 2 million, and everybody else is trying to pay one, or their fair market value for say an offensive tackle is 1 million a year, and you're trying to pay two, this third party is just gonna tell you no, you can't do that. But the other part that I was reading, the NIL deals, if it's over $600, that's what has to be cleared. So who's from stopping people from making $2,599 deals and just have your army of polos figure out the paperwork for you?
Mm-hmm.
I think if they really do enforce, I think there's a couple different ways we could go about this. If they really do enforce the fair market value, I think at that point it evens the playing field. I think at that point, then if Bryant's Mizzou and I'm Georgia and Nolan's Florida State and we're all slinging $1 million at an offensive tackle coming out of high school, it's a 5-star. I think at that point you're going to find the player choose a school that he truly feels the best fit for him rather than just chasing the bag. I don't blame any of these players for chasing the bag, by the way. I mean, go get your money while you can. That's what you should do, honestly. I mean, it's what I would do. I mean, I'm not too good to sit here and say that I wouldn't go do that. Um, but I think also with this a little bit is I think this kind of trends us in the direction one day of just having like two massive football conferences. I think you're truly going to see what school is all about football because when Bryant was talking about that 20.5 million, let's just use that value. When Bryant talks about that, and you don't have to spend 70% of that on football if you don't want to, that's a lot of money from your school. You're going to find schools that care about football and that's what their sole focus is. They're going to spend that money regardless. They do not care. If they are given that money to spend on football, they are going to spend it. I'm not going to throw a dagger at this school just because, like a school like Wake Forest, there's a team that kind of comes to mind. You may find them as a school that doesn't spend that 70% of hard set value on football. They may just not do it. They may just pocket the money. They care about academics there. I'm not saying some of these other schools don't, but I mean, you may find them be a team that doesn't necessarily all buy all the way into football. You're going to see the schools like Georgia, Alabama, Florida State, Clemson. You're going to see the schools that you constantly see, the quote unquote blue bloods of college football. You're going to see those schools still spend that money, plus they're collective. It's what they're here for. It's what brings them all the revenue. It's what everybody goes to there for. I mean, this is the reason that these schools are considered blue bloods. I think it can level the playing field in a sense of the fair market value if it gets enforced. I also, on the flip side of that coin, think that this could completely blow some of these mid-tier teams out of the water. This could leave them sitting. I mean, some schools don't have the collective that a Texas Tech has. You could see Texas Tech absolutely boat race the rest of the Big 12 conference, getting this money plus their collective. So I think it could really go a couple of different directions. I think it only gets regulated an equal playing field if it's truly enforced on the fair market value. That is it.
Yeah, and I got a point on that, Colin, that I was trying to remember earlier. So what I was going to say, it's all revenue based, right? So if you're like, let's say you're Syracuse or somebody, if you're not making the revenue in football, they're not paying the money to those players because they're not making the money on the front end. So I think that bodes to what you said as let's make two big conferences so we get all the revenue in these two conferences, and we have the money to pay these players. Like the SEC schools, no issues, but if you get in some of these other conferences, like the American or even the Big 12 in some instances, these schools aren't going to have all the revenue in the world to pay the players the $20.5 million across the board. So I think that also hurts the mid majors and the lower tier schools and lower tier conferences in Division One, like you just mentioned, because they're not going to have the revenue to even get to the $20.5 million.
You guys think worst case scenario, this almost turns into like an NFL or like a, I should say, MLB situation? We got everybody making money, getting all that revenue, opting in. There are quote unquote professional college teams. And then you have the Midwest, the American Athletic Conference, people that are not the big guys. There are amateur college football teams, and then the professional teams just get sort of like they already do with the transfer portal. They just get to pick and choose whoever they want off of those smaller teams. It's just
Yeah.
now it's technically the school paying them instead of an NIL paying them.
Yeah, I think this completely plugs all the talent out of like the MAC conference per se. I mean, you see these conferences already getting decimated with players. I mean, it's if you really dive into it and try to find real good top tier, G5 conference level players, they're really not there anymore because they move on. They move on to the SEC, the ACC, Big 10, Big 12. I mean, they move on and rightfully so. I mean, this is their career. This is what they're here to do. They're here to maximize their talent and their potential, and it's a stepping stone. It is truly a stepping stone at this point. And part of me thinks if it's not enforced and regulated, you could see this completely decimate the mid tier conferences. I mean, absolutely bury them.
And my last point on this before we move on to the Big 12 talk, we've seen many times Mizzou's gotten screwed, other teams gotten screwed. Are they going to play fair? Because somebody's going to break the rules. If Ohio State breaks the rules and Kansas State breaks the rules, are they going to enforce the rules evenly for those two teams? My gut tells me no from past experience, but I feel like if this is truly enforced as it should be and how it reads, they should play fair as far as punishment or deciding whether to impact a school, whether it's a blue blood or a nobody. So I think that's another caveat to this as well.
I mean, if something like that happens, and you used Ohio State, it's a great example, and they don't punish Ohio State the way they would punish an Oklahoma State. I mean, what would stop any other big name school, name brand school from going and doing this? And then it just becomes an absolute flood of problems. So I
Mm,
mean, I think they're in over their heads. I think this is
yeah,
spiraling out of control at a rapid rate, and they are doing anything they can to try to stop it. But these teams have always found a workaround. These teams have always had guys working in the shadows to find a way around it. It's a business, and it's a shisty business. I don't know. I mean,
if
it's pretty rough. I mean, it's damn
if
near mob like. I mean, it's wild.
if I'm a lawyer, I'm absolutely licking my chops.
Oh, dude, sign me up to be a lawyer out of school right now because you have a lifetime of you have a hell of a like job security, I guess is what I'm trying to find here. It's bad.
I got your fairness right here on my shirt.
Yeah.
Can't beat us, cheat us.
Oh, yeah. I love it. Hey, I don't blame you. I'd be upset too still. Anything else on this? I mean, how do you guys good on that topic? It's it's a topic that we could go on for days about, and Nolan said this before we went on here that there's no right answer to any of this. It's a wait and see. It's wait and find out, and in 5 years we're gonna look back and be like, "Good Lord, that was an absolute shit show." So
I personally think it's the right way to go to get some structure somehow because it was just literally the Wild West since 2021. But I don't know if this was the right structure. Time will tell.
yeah, there's endless amounts of lawsuits from this at some point. All right, fellas. Well, we ready to do what we came here for? Move on to the Big 12 conference.
Let's
Ready?
get it.
All right. We are going to kick this thing off with Arizona. This is a newer team in the Big 12 conference after the Pac-12 was dissolved, and they came over and did not make a whole lot of waves last year. They are looking to try to improve this season. Their over/under is currently sitting at 4.5. The over is -160. The under is +135. This is year two for Brent Brennan. Noah Fafita's still there at the quarterback position. He's never thrown a pass without Tedderell McMillan. Ted McMillan is off to the draft. Kind of anxious to see how this works out for Fafita. I don't feel good about it personally. They do have quite a bit of their defense returning. They did get some transfer receivers, a transfer running back. They were 4-8 last season, so they were well below expectations. Nolan, Bryant, how are we feeling about this Arizona Wildcats football team?
I don't know truly how to feel. We kind of had a little discussion before the show. Um, no, Fafita really was not that good last year without Ted McMillan, and even when Ted was there, they went 4-8. I think this team was better than they were last year. This team was kind of still reeling from when Jed Fish hopped ship and went to Washington after Kalen DeBoer went to Alabama. So they got a new offensive coordinator, a new defensive coordinator, some decent weapons at offense, like you mentioned, but they're pretty unproven. That being said, I have them over at 5 wins. They got a relatively easy schedule, in my opinion. They get their tougher games on at home. I have them beating Hawaii, Weber State, and Oklahoma State. I don't think they win any of these other games. All those games against both Kansas teams, Baylor and BYU, are pretty tough. Um, on the road, I have them beating Houston and Colorado, and then losing the other 3 games against Iowa State, Cincinnati, and Arizona State. So I feel like this should be a relatively easy over under for them to hit. So I got them at 5. Um, I could honestly see them doing worse, no better than that. That's just what I'm seeing.
I got him on the under here. You guys have already hit it about Noah Fafita. I'm not a believer in him. Not thrown a pass without Tet McMillan. Even with Tet McMillan, he put up okay stats, but that guy just went, what, top 10 in the draft this year for the NFL? You're
Mm-hmm.
telling me you can't put up amazing stats with a top 10 in the draft receiver? That's a little suspect in my opinion. But he also had the most off-target throws in Power 5 conference last year. It's just again, Tet McMillan was a or top 10 draft pick in the NFL draft this year. He saved him and they limped to 4 wins.
Well, and I mean, what's crazy here too is a lot of people forget Tet and Noah Fafita played high school football together. I mean, he
Yeah, they
truly
had a
hasn't.
connection.
Yeah, he truly has not gone without him, and now he does. And I also think what Brian talked about too is a huge point. I mean, they looked serviceable, and Noah Fafita looked to be an up and coming quarterback with Jed Fish. Jed Fish leaves. Jed Fish doesn't take Noah Fafita. I don't know if that was Noah Fafita not wanting to go there. I don't know if Jed Fish didn't really want to take him. Obviously, we don't have that answer, but I don't like this at all, especially without him. I mean, Noah Fafita is not a very big quarterback. He's not a guy I feel comfortable with. I am comfortably on the under in this. I have them getting 3 wins and one of those being a coin flip game against Oklahoma State. I don't think they have a shot against K-State, Iowa State, BYU, Colorado, Baylor, Arizona State, and I think Houston, Kansas, and Cincinnati are looking to be a better team than what this Arizona football team is looking to be. So I think they do get Hawaii and Weber State, and it wouldn't completely shock me if they lose to Hawaii. I'll be honest with you. That is kind of how low I am on this Arizona football team. I think this is a big season for Brent Brennan. I don't think they want another 4-win season. And this is one of those teams talking about what we talked about before we got into the Big 12 conversation. Is Arizona going to be a team that buys all the way into their football program? If so, and they're wanting to spend 70% and opt into this thing, they're probably not going to want to take a Brent Brennan with them if they've won 8 games in 2 seasons with him. So I think this is a big season for Arizona football and Brent Brennan's career at Arizona, but I don't like the way it's headed at all.
Yeah, I know we're going to have a hot seat talk sometime later on towards the season. And I think Brent Brennan's going to be a top 10 on that list. And it's going to be tough for him to overcome with the team he has. I think the dude's probably likely gone after this season, but time will tell.
On the flip side of that, though, just to not dive into the hot seat too much, who would take the Arizona job though? Like, I mean, it's not that appealing of a job, I don't think. I mean, Arizona is probably a pretty good place to live, but as a coach at Arizona, I don't know what their collective looks like. I don't think it's the best. I don't know how long term of a career you could have there. I mean, it worked for Jet Fish, obviously, but man, that program is not in the right direction at all right now. So
You
they
could
may
get
keep
those
him.
you could get those group of 5 coaches that if they're not going to opt into all of
Yeah,
this house settlement stuff, that's an easy place to go jump into. You
yeah.
might not go super far, but give me a couple mil a year for 5 years and I'll go back down to the group of 5 after.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Pay my house off and I'll move on again.
Yep.
Moving on to a team that had low expectations last year, at least it looked like, and then come out and win the Big 12 and damn near win a playoff football game. We're talking about Arizona State. This is a team with Kenny Dillingham as the coach, looks to be one of the arguably best upcoming names in college football as a coach right now. Had great interviews, was a great speaker. Anytime I listened to the guy talk, hell, I believed in him. I believed in the team just because of him. You know, they went 11-1 in the regular season last year. That playoff loss to Texas. If anybody's listening to us, I imagine they watched that game. And Arizona State damn near pulled this one off. There was a couple calls we talked about after that game that maybe they go a different direction. Maybe Arizona State wins that football game. You know, we sit here and we have Sam Levitt and Jordan Tyson. Jordan Tyson's healthy. They did all that in the playoffs, and that game, I should say, without their best receiver. He is arguably their best player on offense, and he's healthy this year. Love that Levitt Tyson combo. They're returning damn near this whole entire defense. You do lose Cam Scatabo to the draft, and they do have really high expectations. The over-under is sitting at 8.5. The over is -105. The under is -115. This line's kind of teetering. Everybody's back and forth on this. Bryant, Nolan, you guys both leaning over or under here?
Got the over on this one. I understand Cam Scatterbu was again another NFL draft pick this year. Was he taking all that pressure off Levitt, or was Levitt really performing that well? I think that's kind of the question they got to answer this year to actually get this over. But apparently, coaching staff, everybody that knows Arizona State football that I was looking into, they like their kind of aggregate of running backs that they're going to use to replace
Yeah.
Scatterbu. They got a bruiser, they got a scat back, they got a lightning quick guy. I I think it's truthfully just going to be personnel packages, and can Sam Levitt and Jordan Tyson, can they kind of recreate some of their magic last year? Can they take a step forward this year? They also return almost their whole defense.
It's incredible.
I think it's something like 78%, 73% of their defense, something like that
Mhm.
is coming back. I do have a question related to that. We always give people credit for having a lot of returning players, right? They're an old defense though, too. It's not like it was a bunch of sophomores that are just turning juniors that weren't draft eligible. Is it really the best thing in the world to have that many returning junior into senior? Were they not good enough to be in the draft and drafted? That's more so my question. Can we trust them?
I think you can just if they didn't make the playoffs last year, I would probably have a different outlook on this. But the fact that they made the playoffs, went toe to toe with Texas, played on the biggest stage of maybe Arizona State football in some years, I think it was a great learning experience for them. I think they had great exposure to really good football teams. So I think it's a really good bonus for this Arizona State football team because they can kind of lean on that defense a little bit. This is Levitt's second year as a starter, so I think this is where you see even bigger strides for him. So I think if you can count on both sides of the football, I'm in on this. I am all in on that defense. To be honest with you, it's a great question though because you do ask yourself, okay, are they just not that good? But they did enough last year, right? I mean, they went 11-1. I mean, they did
Yep.
enough.
I think them coming back, the leadership that they'll show, being this defense specifically that we're talking about, and having the continuity with having a good season last year and bringing it into this year, I think that kind of supersedes maybe them not being good enough to make the NFL or go to a better school in like an SEC conference or something. So I think it bodes well for them too. So I think having a lot of those guys back will definitely help them, and we saw how they could play. Um, Nolan, did you have the over under on this? You said over?
I had the over on this.
Yeah, I had over as well at 10. The only game I have them losing at home is Texas Tech. I think Texas Tech's going to be a tough football team. And then I also have them losing to Baylor on the road. But I have them winning every other game. Um, Colin kind of took all the points I had, right out from underneath me. I love Kenny Dillingham. I think Sam Levitt and Jordan Tyson are going to be one of the best duos in college football. And he replaces Cam Scatabo. You kind of talked about that, and I got a name to talk about that real quick. And then we already talked about basically how their defense is almost completely coming back. A lot of people didn't know this, but Army had a really good running back last year in Kanye Udo. He was one of the best running backs in the portal, and now he's at Arizona State. That's kind of the bruiser guy that Nolan was talking about. I think they're going to lean on him as kind of the Cam Scatabo type. I don't think he can necessarily break tackles like Scatabo did, but that dude can run the football, and he's run the football a bunch in his career straight up the gut. I think we'll see a lot of that this year. And then also the athleticism of Sam Levitt to escape the pocket and make plays with his legs as well will bode well for this team. So I got them comfortably at the over. I'm surprised it's only at minus 105, but I'm pretty comfortable with that pick.
I think this is just me being facetious here. I think it's minus 105 because anytime a Big 12 team has expectations, they
That's a
fall like
bluff.
4 games short. So, yeah, that's the only reason I can see too. I'm on the over as well, and I think it speaks volume that Jordan Tyson and Sam Levitt did not lead this Arizona State football team in the portal. I mean, I think it speaks volume to what Kenny Dillingham does. I think it speaks volume to what Arizona State has to offer as a program right now because there's a lot of teams in the SEC and the Big Ten that would have took Jordan Tyson and Sam Levitt in an absolute heartbeat to come into their program and lead their team around. But like I said, I'm comfortably on the over as well. I do have them dropping 3 games, so I'm over by a half game. I'm being a little optimistic for a Mississippi State team because it is on the road for Arizona State. I could see Arizona State beating them by 30. This is just a coin flip game for me a little bit, and because it is on the road right out of the gate, I think Mississippi State maybe still has a little bit of confidence at that point on should be game 2 for them, I believe. I think Mississippi State can get it done, but I do have them losing to Texas Tech and Iowa State as well. I think those are 2 programs that are trending in the right direction. I think another tricky game on this schedule that could be a coin flip game is Baylor, and I think another tricky game in this schedule is TCU. I do have those as coin flip games, but I did give them to Arizona State. I do have them coming in at 9-3. Could see this being as good as 10-2. Could see this being as bad as 8-4. So I'm kind of right in that 2-game swing, but I just love what they have to offer returning as a team and as a coach. So give me the over on this one. We good on Arizona State?
Two last things about
Yeah.
Arizona State, both related to the coach. Kenny Dillingham used to be Florida State offensive coordinator, so I've been following him a little bit. If you've
Ooh,
never watched, yeah, if you've never watched any interviews with him or anything, he doesn't do coach speak. He tells you what he's thinking. I think
Yeah.
that's why everybody's pulling for him. He's just an honest, raw guy. The other
Yeah.
thing is how Bryant mentioned Kanye Udo and Collins mentioning coin flip games. Kenny Dillingham is actually a pretty aggressive offensive coach. Those whatever go for it or punt metrics that they'll put on the college football
Yeah.
and NFL games, more often than not, he is correct. And some of those graphics on the TV, they're incorrect from time to time. He will go against that punt and he'll go for it. If you got a big bruiser like Kanye Udo, that's playing to win the game and that's not playing to not lose the game. That's how you
Absolutely.
end up getting to 10-2, 11-1.
Yep.
Go play to win the game.
Hey, that's great. I love what you said because I totally agree with that statement. You play to win, don't play to not lose bullshit. That's how you lose football games. I mean, just ask Mario Cristobal. Got him again. Uh, yeah, and Dillingham's a guy that if it's 4th and 5 on the 40, he's probably. I mean, he's going for it. He doesn't give a
Let's
shit.
go.
He's offense on the field. I trust my guys.
well,
He,
didn't
he's
help that their kicker sucked last year.
they're absolutely terrible. We got to see a little bit of improvement on that,
Yep.
and they might be even better. But he's also a name that you could see. I know he loves this Arizona State program, but hell, man, they win 10 games again. He's a guy's name that you could see like on some of the biggest of schools looking to hire if they need to fill a coaching void. Moving on to Baylor. Baylor is currently sitting at 7.5, the over at minus 105, the under at minus 115. Something similar to what we just saw in Arizona State, just a game less. You'll see a lot of this in this Big 12 conference. I don't really think the experts out there in Vegas know how to set these lines because it's kind of all over the place. Baylor was a team that had absolutely no expectations last year. Bryant and I on last year's shows talked about how Dave Aranda might be fired for the season's over. I think that hot seat's lifted for him. Going 8-4 was way better than they ever expected. This whole offense is back. You add Kobe Prentice at wide receiver in the transfer portal, and Sawyer Robinson stayed with this program. Didn't transfer out. He's a damn good quarterback. They just need the offense to hold up. Bryant, what do you have for the Baylor Bears?
I got them over at 8 wins, and I'll explain why here shortly. But you mentioned it right off the cuff. I think David Randa saved his job last year, going 8-4. I think he was one of the if not the hottest seats in college football. So props to him. Kept a lot of players. You mentioned Sawyer Robinson, but he kept both running backs, similar to like a Penn State situation. Bryson Watson and Dawson Pendergrass are both coming back as well. This was the best scoring offense in the Big 12 last year. This offense
which is
kind of,
crazy. That's
yeah,
crazy, by the way.
this is kind of the offense kind of reminds me when RG3 was there. They were just slinging and moving the ball up and down the field at will. They just need some of the guys on defense to step up, and I think they'll win plenty of games this year. So I got them at 8. The reason I have them at 8 is this schedule is actually kind of tough. Um,
Yep.
they open the season at Auburn. I have them losing that game, even though it's a home game. But they play K State at home, Arizona State at home. Um, they play SMU on the road in the second week of the season. They play TCU on the road, so it's a pretty tough schedule. But I have them squeaking out 8 wins, 5 at home, and 3 on the road. They do have some pretty easy games, I'll call it, on the schedule as well. But I looked at this schedule compared to some of the other teams we're talking about this week, and I was like, man, this is probably the toughest schedule we have on the list.
Yes. This is the toughest Big 12 schedule that we have on tonight's episode for sure. Maybe not if you include part 2 next week, but on tonight's episode, this is by far and away, I think, the toughest. I mean, you open up an Auburn SMU. SMU is just a playoff football team. I mean, damn, dude, that's tough in the Big 12. I'm gonna be honest with you. I mean, that's a way to start your season 0-2 if you don't have things going right. Because I can guarantee you that SMU and Auburn love looking at Baylor on their schedule in the first 2 weeks. I mean, Auburn's looking to go make a playoff push this year. SMU's looking to repeat. So, I mean, you may find this team 0-2 and they take some real frustration out on Stanford, and then they come back and play Arizona State in week 4. This is not great. This is not
They
great. But
they could be 1-3, but hell, if they go 3-1 or even 2-2, I think we'll be having a lot of talks about Baylor and a potential Big 12 run, in my opinion.
well, hey, I'm here to tell you that I have them beating SMU in a coin flip game. So I have Baylor going 8-4 as well. I have them losing Auburn, Kansas State, Arizona State, and the TCU game. I think they are coin flip wins against SMU. Something about that Utah game. That game just kind of gave me some vibes that it might be a coin flip win. It's going to be a close one for them. But I think they handle Stanford, Oklahoma State. I think they should win Cincy, UCF, Arizona, and Houston. So I have them coming in at 8-4. I think you could see Sawyer Robinson be right up there in Sam Levitt conversation to be the best Big 12 quarterback in the conference. And I really like what he has to offer. And it's impressive that he stayed with this football team again another season.
The under. I'm against you guys today.
Really? Okay.
Their defense is too big of a question mark,
It's
and
bad.
It's bad.
I'm just wondering if Dave Aranda was coaching to save his job last year, and now he's going to let off the gas since he is off the hot seat, as most people will put it. Are you going to take the gas off? Are you really going to step on it? What's going on? And then Bryant brings up the RG3 years at Baylor. I know they're slinging it around, but Sawyer Robinson ain't no Heisman candidate like
No, he's
RG3 was, man.
wasn't
That's
comparing
how
to that, but similar type offense, West Coast style. Let's throw the ball and let's go up and down the field.
that's how Baylor gets to 8, 9, 10, 11 wins is if you got an RG3 Heisman candidate back there. Those coin flip games, I just don't see them winning because of the defense. I think it'll come down to the last possession or two, and team's going to score, and I don't think Baylor's going to be able to do it at the very end.
I think the best way this team could get to 8 wins plus is to honestly do the opposite of what Bryant was talking about, because that's what they did last year. And the defense is so bad, they need to slow it down a little bit. And you brought up a great point. When you see a lot of these coaches put it in cruise control once they kind of say their job, don't this is not a good enough team to do that. You need to go out there and you need to play with conviction that you don't want to lose your job and you need to keep things going in the right direction. But you also need to slow it down because that defense is so damn bad. You need to convert on third downs. You need to make it third and short often. You need to be less than 5 yards on third downs, and you need to convert on all of them. Obviously, not all of them, but you need to have a high percentage rate on converting on those. Or yeah, you could turn around and find this team going 4-8. I mean, in all seriousness. So especially, and we talked about this already, especially if they do come out and they're 1-3 to start the season. Maybe the players are starting to lose a little bit of confidence at that point. Holy shit, we're 1-3. Things don't look great. I don't know. This is a really this is like an Arizona State last year. Maybe they come out and they could win the damn Big 12, or they could come out and they could look like Houston last year. I mean, there is no in between for this Baylor football team. You guys good on Baylor?
Yeah, this is one of the hardest teams to pick in my opinion, but yeah, I think we went in deep enough with them.
I'm with you though, Brian. I'm with you on the Baylor over. I like what they have to offer. Just got to play some defense. Moving on
Absolutely.
to BYU. BYU was a really damn good football team last year. They showed a lot of signs of life. They showed that they are one of the toughest places to play that people forget about. This is a place that nobody wants to go into at night and play. BYU's over under win total sitting at 7.5. Over is the heavy favorite at minus 170. Under sitting at plus 140. I love Kalani Sitake. I love this football team. I love watching BYU play football. I think Chase Roberts is one of the most underrated receivers in college football. This whole defense is back. LJ Martin's a great running back. You go 10-2 last season, looking like you could damn near win the Big 12. Came up just a little bit short. And like I said, going to Provo is where nobody wants to find their on their schedule. Nolan, how you feeling about BYU?
The over. I'm with you on everything you just said. Their defense is going to be great again this year. They were top of the Big 12 last year. They were top 25 in most every metric in college football. It's a tough team to beat if you can't really move the ball and score on them. And then like you said about playing them at night, I didn't know this, but apparently people call them the vampires. I don't know if you guys knew that or
I've never
not.
heard that.
All I've
Apparently,
ever heard is stolen Mormons.
I heard it a couple different times today as I was doing some research. People calling them the vampires on the subreddit stacks and everything, that you do not want to go play in Provo at night. They were spouting off some stats, turnovers, points scored, all of that. They said as soon as it turns dark, your offense turns dark. It's a tough team to beat.
Hey,
Yeah,
they are a tough team.
we saw last year, and this was probably one of the more shocking games of the season. K State got absolutely worked by BYU and on the road. Like it wasn't even close. It was like 35-3, if I remember right. Um, so I'm
It was a splattering for sure.
Yeah. So that proves right there how hard of a place Provo is to play there in Utah at night, especially. I'm on the over as well. I'm going to preface this by saying that any of the issues going on with Jake Retzlaff legally are taken care of. That's still kind of up in the air. So I'm assuming that he's going to be the quarterback of this football team. I think I got this over at 10 is what I have it comfortably. I don't think they lose a game at home. And personally, I think we talked about Baylor being the tougher schedule. I think this is one of the easier schedules in the league. Um, it's they're playing a lot of bottom feeders in in this conference, and their Power Five out of conference game is Stanford, and we all talked about them in the ACC. They're going to be really bad. So um, they do have some tough games to play on the road at Texas Tech and Iowa State, but the rest I feel like are pretty winnable. The defense is going to carry this team, and they're a really good offense as well. So I think BYU rolls to a pretty good season.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head with the red slap stuff. We don't really dive into too much legality here on this show because that is a topic that we stay away from. But if he is the quarterback of this team's going to have no problems being successful. Obviously, if he's not there and something were to happen, then we'll have to come back and revisit BYU and look at them probably go 4-8. But I am looking at them as well about the 9-3 range. I feel pretty good about 9-3. I do have them losing Iowa State, Texas Tech back to back. I think that's a tough 2-game stretch there. I had them on a coin, and this is crazy. I know I'm not a Colorado supporter, but I had them on a coin flip loss against a Colorado football team. That's an away game. I do think it's still early enough for Colorado to be looking like they might be able to make some waves. And I just something about that game gave me vibes that it's going to be a Colorado dub. So I have them coming in at 9-3. What a hell of a stretch for the first 3 games for BYU. Good Lord Almighty, they're like their or the point differential should be like 79-10 after the first 3 weeks. They should feel real good about themselves going into that Colorado game. And that is why I have them dropping that game. Maybe a little bit of a punch in the mouth after some easier opponents. But the rest of this schedule outside of Iowa State and Texas Tech is pretty well a cakewalk. I know that Utah game is usually kind of a rivalry game a little bit. BYU's the much better football team. I think the only other game that they may have some tough times with is the coin flip game. For me is TCU, but I do have them coming out on the right side of that one. So a comfortable over on this one. I understand why it's minus 170. Moving on to Cincinnati. Cincinnati is currently sitting at over under 6.5, the over plus 110, the under minus 130. Fellas, this is a Cincinnati football team, in my opinion, that's still trying to find their way without Luke Fickell. Ever since he's kind of moved on, they've kind of been him hauling around a little bit. They go 5-7 last year. Scott Satterfield's been there for a couple years now. They're just kind of looking for a bowl game this season. The offense is searching for a ton of help. I know they have. It's looking like they should have 6 transfers starting at the offensive positions for them. That's really not that great, especially when your transfer portal ranking is not that great. But one thing that you can kind of maybe hang your hat on for this team is Brendan Sorsby's back at the quarterback position. So if you're a fan of him or you like what he brings to the table, you may have a little something there going for you. The defense is replacing a shit ton of players as well. I'm a little surprised that this over under is currently sitting at 6.5. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, I got them right under at 6. I have in big bold on my notes here. This is a very meh team, middle of the road. I do like Scott Satterfield. He was a really, really good coach at App State. Came here from there to coach at Cincinnati. I really like him as a head coach, but man, this I think is one of the tougher schedules right up there with Baylor. They started the season against Nebraska on a neutral field. Bowling Green and then Northwestern State are easy, but they got some tough games here: BYU, Iowa State, TCU, Kansas. I mean, pretty tough schedule for a team that's trying to just get to bowl eligibility. I do have them winning 6 wins to get to bowl eligible status, but I got them at the under at 6, under 6.5.
I'm very comfortably on the under. I got them to 4 wins, maybe a 5th win. I got them missing another bowl game this year. Like you said, they're a very meh team. They're average. The only thing I would like to bring up, we talk about the quarterback on every team so far. Is the Big 12 the quarterback conference this year?
I wouldn't say that. There's just a lot of returning guys. They're not guys that are going to blow the top off. I think Sam Levitt has a chance to do that. There's a couple others that have a chance, but they're just a lot of returning dudes. They're not going to be, the Jaden Daniels of the world or anybody like that.
I think it's very well put, Bryant, because you're spot on. I can't say anything else about it other than these guys are just all coming back. It's certainty at the position. It's continuity at the position. It's not where you see the SEC and the Big Ten where these guys go have 1-2 seasons where they're in Heisman contentions and they're off. See you bye. This is a conference where we're going to talk about every quarterback in the conference, but we're probably not going to talk about them on our Heisman episodes. I think maybe Sam Levitt at best could come into that conversation. And I'm still going to be honest with you. I don't think he does. But I mean, this is a great question because, yeah, you're going to find a lot of continuity and a lot of familiar names of guys that we feel comfortable with. That if you tell me, hey, Brendan Swearsby's leading this football team, give him some competent route runners, I think Swearsby could go out there and throw for 3,000 yards and maybe 26, 27 touchdowns and 10 interceptions, like a guy that can be serviceable at the position to maybe get you to a bowl game. So I'm with you guys as well. I'm on the under on this. I'm at 6-6. When I look at this schedule, I see a whole lot more no chance in hell to win football games than I do maybe a chance to go win. I don't think they beat Nebraska on a neutral field. I think Nebraska is a much better football team. I think obviously they're going to beat Bowling Green, Northwestern State. The only coin flip game that I gave them is Utah. I gave them a coin flip loss against Kansas, and they have no shot against Iowa State, Baylor, BYU, TCU. They do have a really good chance to win against UCF, Oklahoma State, and Arizona. That's because those teams are also not good. So those are games where you kind of find yourself looking at the schedule. I have to win these games if we want to make a bowl. I absolutely have to. I'm at 6-6. I can't get it a game past 6 on the over side. I could go down about a game and a half on the under. So this is a pretty comfortable under for me. And I forgot what I said it was sitting at. Let me pull this back up. Minus 130. I feel like that's pretty good odds for the under on this because I just don't see anything else happening.
No, I could definitely agree with you both on Cincinnati.
Just still trying to find their way,
Like I
man.
said, a very meh team.
This is
That's the best way to put it.
that is the 100% the best. I don't know what else to say. I'm just sitting here thinking like, yeah, I don't have anything else to add on Cincinnati.
Like they don't have Desmond Ritter and Sauce Gardner anymore.
Yeah.
No, and
I was
this
trying to find bright spots. I was trying to find something,
yes,
just to drag them with. And it's like, I can't find anything, man.
nothing, man.
It's a bunch of average college football players, which perfectly fine if you're Cincinnati, to be completely honest. You're
Yeah,
not competing for the national title every year. Let's compete for top half of the Big 12. And on the off chance you get a Sauce Gardner or a Desmond Ritter,
yeah,
then let's go and try and win it.
yeah. Because I mean, to your point, when those guys bursted onto the scene, we weren't talking about them either at that point, you know. So find your guys. Moving on to Colorado, a team that lives in the headlines. It's a damn shame Dave's not on this episode tonight because he wouldn't even have looked at the over under. He just would have said over 10 or something crazy. But this Colorado football team, I've made a little hints about this in past episodes where I think you could find this team being a better looking football team without Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders, just because I think they could be more complete. Everything doesn't revolve around two players. Everything doesn't revolve around when Shedeur snaps the ball, he's trying to dodge sacks for 8 seconds, hold the ball too long, and chuck it up to Travis Hunter somewhere down the field. I think it could make them more competent. Yes, I know they went 9-3 last season, so improving from that is going to be hard. But I think when you watch them as a football team, they could look way more complete. So the over under for them is sitting at 6.5. The over is actually the dog at plus 125, and the under is at minus 150. Deion Sanders, some news came out about him today, looking like he might have some health issues going on, stepping away from the team a little bit. May not necessarily be the head coach coming into the season. There's all kinds of rumors out there. I don't even want to say what the critics are saying about this situation out there because it's bad. I hope Deion's okay. I hope he's healthy. I hope everything works out for him and his health. The number 19 portal class, that's something to kind of hang your hat on a little bit. This is what we're going to see Deion in Colorado do time and time again throughout this college football career that he has there. You bring in Caden Salter from Liberty. You bring in Juju Lewis, two transfer quarterbacks that have a ton of hype around them. And, Jordan Seaton, last year's offensive tackle coming in, the 5-star, he stayed. This is an all-new offensive line outside of Jordan Seaton, though. Don't love that. Their best player on defense is Arden Walker. Need him to consistently be the best player on the field and generate a lot of pressure from the defensive end position because I'm going to be frank with you. I think their defense sucks. So you're going to have to really show me something positive here and show me a new style of football on that side of the ball to take care of business. Nolan, over under 6.5 for you.
Under comfortably. They
Okay.
don't have Shador. They don't have Travis Hunter. I think they have to switch their style of football, like you said. They're going to have to play tough defense and they're going to have to run the ball. If you can't rely on Shador and Travis Hunter to score you all these points and just win a shootout for you, you're going to have to slow the ball down, slow the game down, run the ball. But can they do it? Is Dion a patient person to be able to run the ball and play defense? That's what he played. He was a corner, but can he coach a very good defense?
Absolutely not. I don't think. Um, if anybody watched any of our shows last year, I just don't like Colorado. I think it's all talk and no play. I got them comfortably under at 4 wins. They lost all their guys. Dion is all he cares about is being in the spotlight and making news other than playing winning football games. Um, they did bring in some good players. You mentioned Juju Lewis and Salter, but they lost a bunch of guys at receiver, Will Shepard, Travis Hunter, to name a few. Um, Colorado does have success in recent years, especially with Dion on overhauling rosters. So I think that's a plus for them. But I don't see a whole lot of wins on the schedule. They got one of the more they got one of the tougher home schedules in this conference. They got Georgia Tech at home, BYU at home, Arizona State at home, Arizona. I think they only win a couple of those games, and then they do only have a few games on the road. But K State's a loss, in my opinion. TCU is a loss, so I just don't see it here. I only got them at 4 wins. Um, I'm just kind of tired of the whole Colorado being on ESPN every single day. Even 2 years ago when they were 4-8.
Big
So
noon.
I'm
Big
over
noon,
it.
baby.
I'm over it. I think they suck this year, so I'm going 4.
I do have them on the over. I guess I'll be the off one on this show on the Colorado here. I'm over 6.5. If you guys remember back on our ACC episode, I had them beating Georgia Tech to start the season off because Colorado's going to be hopping in week one. Think that gives them the advantage there. I think they beat Delaware, no problem. I think they beat Houston, no problem. Wyoming comes to town. They should handle them, no problem. So right there, we're sitting at 4-0. I think you do lose the BYU game. I think you do lose the TCU game. And I'm going to stun a lot of people with this one. I gave them a coin flip win against Iowa State. Do I feel good about that? Not at all. But this is one of the games I looked at, and I love what Caden Salter has to offer at the quarterback position. I think he was a really good quarterback, and I think there is some potential for him to have some success at Colorado. Otherwise, I don't think he would have made this move because Liberty was cut out for him. So I did give them that game. I think they beat Utah. I think they beat Arizona. And then I do have them losing out against West Virginia, Arizona State, K State. So if I do my math correctly, I think that has me sitting at 7-5 with them. And now, like I said, that just solely goes on to the fact that they should come out of the gates 4-0. They really should come out of the gate 4-0. Even if they lose that Iowa State game, they could go beat a West Virginia, and that gets them back to 7. I don't think Utah and Arizona are a game for them. Those two teams are bad. Bad, bad.
I don't know, man. I just don't believe in it. I just don't believe in Salter either. The dude was not good at Liberty last year. He has 15 touchdowns, 6 picks. I only
It
had
was
like
a
800
letdown. It was
yards
a big
passing.
letdown. It was a big
So
letdown season for him.
I think Juju Lewis is going to start for them as a freshman, in my opinion. Um,
Hey,
that dude, Lincoln Riley, wanted that guy with everything in his being, and he decommitted and went to Colorado last minute. So I think that's a testament to how good of a player he is. So I think he starts over Salter personally. I think he's the better quarterback, but I just don't like this Colorado team. I think their defense is going to let them down too much for them to overcome.
maybe I listened to Dave too much. Maybe I
Yeah,
because
he
like
turned into Dave.
last year I was on the under of like 5.5 or whatever it was, and they blew that out of the water. And this year I'm going to be on the over when things don't look good. Yeah, I don't know. Don't follow this one. Piss on Colorado. Moving on to Houston. Hey, this is a team that I do think can improve though. Houston, I mean, they don't take much, but I think this is a team that could look a lot better than 4-8 like they were last season. The over under sitting at 6.5, the over plus 120, under minus 140. I like Willie Fritz as a coach. He's been there for a couple years now. This is a whole new offense. They bring in Connor Wegman from Texas A&M to be the quarterback of this football team. You can't
Who
improve
else
on
though?
4-8. Do what?
Who else though?
Just Connor Wegman. This is. I think they're bowl hunting. I should say. You you can't be 4-8 again, right? I mean, Willie Fritz is too good of a coach to be 4-8 again. You had the number 27 portal class. I mean, that's something for a Houston football team. You get Keontae Scott, the 4-star cornerback from Auburn, Carmichael Glass, 3-star linebacker transfer. Those two need to be extremely big for this defense. Otherwise, this is going to be a really bad football team again. So I'm going to let you go first, Bryant. You don't sound like you're high on Houston in any way, shape, or form. So go ahead and tell us how you're on the under.
I like Willie Fritz, but man, back up the Brinks truck on this under. I got them at 3 wins. Um, this is the worst team in the Big 12, in my opinion. Um,
Again?
Connor Wegman, he's good, but he has nobody to throw to, and he wasn't overly spectacular at Texas A&M, where they had 3, 4, and 5 stars all over the field.
He's only
Um,
good when he plays Mizzou. That was
yeah,
literally it.
exactly.
That was
Don't even
literally
bring
it.
that game up. Um, their defense is also horrible. They were last in almost every metric last year on the defense side of the football, and they lost a bunch of guys on that side of the football too. So
That may not be a
um,
bad thing.
they're going
Yeah,
to start the
that's
season
probably
off.
a good thing.
They're going to start the season off 2-0 against Stephen F. Austin and Rice. But I got them losing the rest of the games. Minus, I think they sneak one out against West Virginia. Um, yeah, I got them at 3 wins.
Wow. Nolan?
Actually, I looking at the schedule, I got them on the over.
Really,
This is a really serviceable schedule.
This is a
it's
very
not.
easy
It's not
schedule, I
hard.
feel like.
I just don't see it.
I'm I mean, I just went under on Colorado, so I'm thinking they're taking the Colorado game. Arizona, I think, is probably
They're
going to be one of the worst teams.
Arizona's
West
worse than
Virginia, I
Houston.
don't like. Oklahoma State, we'll see if they have a bounce back year.
No way.
UCF, I think, is also in contention for one of the best or one of the worst Big 12 teams. Oregon State, I just I'm not seeing a lot of teams that actually can put together a good football game. Houston might not be able to either, but who can be the best of the worst? And I'm going to take Houston on that.
When you look at this schedule, outside of Texas Tech, Arizona State, and Baylor, I think the next best win total is like 6.5. So like you're playing all bad teams.
Yep.
Stephen F. Austin, or whatever the hell they are. I think I got that right. Bad team.
Yep.
Rice, bad team. When you compare them to a Big 12 team. Colorado, you guys don't think they're going to be very good. Oregon State, none of us think they're going to be very good. Oklahoma State, I think is horrible. Arizona, I think is horrible. West Virginia, UCF, horrible. Like this is you could not have drawn up a better schedule in the Big 12 for Houston to try to make a bowl game. I am on the under, but I had them at 6-6 making a bowl game. You know, I look at this schedule and I see truly only 3 sure losses. I have 3 coin flip losses and I have 4 coin flip wins. So I mean, this could go any direction for Houston. I think it's kind of all up to them. Maybe they get some confidence starting out 2-0. Maybe they do beat a Colorado. Maybe they do beat a Oregon State. I don't really know, but I do think Willie Fritz is a good coach, and I think that he could maybe maximize some potential out of the guys that he has on his roster. I think he might be kind of coaching a little bit to prove himself as the coach of the future for Houston and not lose a job. So, with that being said, I have them making a bowl game. I am still on the under. I would not bet the over on this at all. Wouldn't bet the under on this either, though, just because this is one I would probably just stay away, just because I feel like 6-6 is probably right where it needs to be, but don't feel good about any of it.
Yeah, this team could be. I think this team's probably one of the more which way is it going to go type teams in the Big 12. Like, I can see your guys' path would be an easy schedule, getting 6 wins, 7 wins, but I also think my scenario is easily on the table as well. So,
For sure.
like you mentioned, it's up to them. So, you know, I do like Willie Fritz. I think he's a good coach. Losing that many games is not his style, but when you don't got the players, you don't have the players, and I just don't think they have the players. But we will see.
It's just one of those deals where when everybody on your schedule is sitting at like 4.5, 5.5, 6.5 win projections, somebody's got to start winning these games. Like, I mean, somebody has to win a football game in college. There's no ties here. So, I don't know. We'll see what Houston brings to the table.
We could
Moving
choose not to
on,
play the games.
you can choose, yeah, and it may go that bad for them. I don't know. I mean, you just never know what you're going to get out of a
A little
Houston.
boycott action.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
possible.
no, I'm just saying don't subject the fans to that type of football.
I see.
It's very possible. Moving on to what I think should be one of the better Big 12 teams. This is our last team of the episode, and then we'll wrap up with the rest of the teams next week. But we're talking about Iowa State here. Their over-under is sitting at 7.5. Over is plus money at 105, and the under is at minus 125. I'm going to go ahead and say this real quick. Sprint, don't walk to your local betting site and absolutely lay the wood on the over on this. I think they are catching massive heat because they lost Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel to the draft. Fellas, outside of that, this is a damn good football team. Like, this is a really, really good football team. And Matt Campbell is about as consistent as you can get as a college football coach. You know, you go 9-3 last season. If you beat Arizona State, you probably would have won the Big 12 and gone to the playoffs. I think that's how that was shaken out, if I remember correctly, on the last season. You know, they add a 4-star wide receiver in the portal and Chase Sowell, I think is how you say his last name, from ECU. Rocco Beck still there, quarterback. The whole line's back. All your production on defense is back damn near. What am I missing as to why this is so low?
I just think it's the question mark with the receiver who's going to replace Nolan and Higgins. Those guys were top level talent in this conference and even the country, I could argue. I think Rocco Beck's one of the best returning quarterbacks in this conference. And Matt Campbell's proven the guy's been there almost 10 years now. He's a winner. He's a Marcus Freeman type coach as far as being able to motivate his players to go out there and play their hardest. They have a question mark at the running back position as well. I think it's just the question marks are why this line's at 7.5 to see if they're going to be answered this season. I think they will. I got them over at 9. I think this is also one of the easier schedules in the conference. In my opinion, as you mentioned there too. So I got them over at 9. One of the better teams I think is going to be in contention for the conference championship at the end of the season.
Speaking of high variance on Houston and question marks, though, I think this team is a high floor, low ceiling team, maybe. They
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
always seem to be 8, 9, 10 wins. Can they get to the 9, 10 range? If they can get to the 10 range, they can be Big 12 champ, right? But if
Yes.
they kind of play to their floor and all that returning production just gets them to the 8 win mark, which is good, that's respectable. But you're in this to win the Big 12 championship, especially this year for Iowa State. The coach consistent every year, and I think they have one of the probably least amount of question marks in all of the Big 12. They seem to answer more questions than you ask of them.
So I looked at it like this: we're at 7.5 is what the books made the line. You play South Dakota, Arkansas State, Arizona, Cincinnati, Kansas, and Oklahoma State. That right there is 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 6 wins right there. You mean to tell me I have to trust Matt Campbell and Iowa State to go find 2 more? Give me this all day long. I mean, I'm at 9-3, and that's when I had them losing to Colorado. I talked about a second ago. There's a world where I could see Iowa State truly going 10-2, 11-1. I
Mm-hmm.
think I I mean I look at this schedule and I try to dice it up. I can't see it worse than 9-3. I can't, and I'm trying to be negative about him. Like I said, I have him losing to Colorado. I mean, I'm trying to find losses to try to make this line seem like it's where it needs to be, and I
They
can't.
they do have kind of a tough start. They go to Ireland to play K State in week 0.
That's
Um,
why do
that
these teams do that? That is so
I don't
something
know.
I laugh. That's so stupid.
We
Agree.
saw what happened to the curse of the team that went there last year.
Yeah.
Um,
Fair enough.
so so I think they lose that game. And then they got to play Iowa 2 weeks later. Yeah, it's at home. I don't know why they're playing a rivalry game in week 3, but um, they
Iowa
could easily
doesn't
lose.
scare me.
Iowa doesn't scare me, but they always play them Iowa State tough,
Yeah.
so they could go 1-2, and that could put a damper on things. But I agree with you. The rest of the schedule is there for the taking, and if history repeats itself, I think Iowa State definitely does it.
Yeah, I love the consistency, and that was the best way to put it too. Nolan is a really high floor for this football team. Like you almost know what you're going to get. I mean, they're going to play great defense. They're going to drag some teams into the mud. They're not going to have some of the prettiest wins, but they're still going to come out on the right side of it in the fourth quarter. Like this is where they need to be. I feel like this is a really good football team, and I don't know. I'm sprinting to the line. I'm sprinting to get in line for the over on this one.
I
Yeah,
think
that
the
was a
Big
brinks.
12 is going to be the fun conference to watch this year. If there's
Yeah,
not a big game on TV,
Yes.
noon game, 3 o'clock slot, I think you go find a Big 12 game to go watch.
Even the bottom feeder games are going to be entertaining. You can turn on
yep.
Oklahoma State and Arizona and enjoy yourself watching college football. You guys got anything else on any of these teams?
No, sir.
I think I'm good. Nolan hit it right on the head. This conference is going to be all over the place, which it honestly has been for a decade plus. So it's
Yeah.
going to be fun to watch and see who comes out on top. Personally, I think it's going to be more, what's the word I'm looking for? The good teams are going to be the good teams. I don't think we're going to have a surprise personally, like an Arizona State was last year, but easily could.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a conference where you can see somebody come out of nowhere and win it. So that wraps up our Big 12 win totals part one. Next week, we will start it off with Kansas State, and move on to the remaining teams for the Big 12 from there. Should be some good stuff for you guys there as well. Looking forward to that. I love these win total episodes. I'm going to keep all of this wrote down for us, and we're going to revisit it after the season ends. And we'll also come back. We'll talk about this, but I want to remind everybody we will come back right before the season starts. And as a group here, as a show, we are going to sit down with you guys, and talk about what are our best bets, what's going to be on our book it segment for the full season win totals. And we like reminding you guys as often as possible that the book it segment last year kicked ass and we made a lot of money. So we're going to try to do that again this year. Add Nolan to the panel should help out a lot too, puts a little bit more knowledge into this thing for us, and we could really break it all the way down. But fellas, I don't have anything else this week. Nolan, make sure you bring us a great question again next week. This is Deep Threat Sports Network. You had Bryant, Nolan, and myself with you guys tonight. You can follow us on X at DT_sports_, Instagram Deep Threat Sports with a Z, Facebook Deep Threat Sports Network, YouTube and Spotify at Deep Threat Sports. Bryant, Nolan, hey fellas, until next time, peace.